My name is Oro Bennett. I'm 29 years old. And I just made what might be either the best decision of my life, or the worst. Right now, I'm sitting in an empty apartment surrounded by boxes. And part of me still can't believe everything that happened. 3 weeks ago, I got the call. A senior software architect position with one of the biggest technology companies in the country. Not quite one of the famous giants everyone talks about, but close enough. 195,000 base salary. Stock options. A signing bonus. Relocation assistance. Everything I'd spent years chasing. The only catch was that the job was in Silicon Valley. I'd have to leave the Midwest. At the time, I'd been with my boyfriend, Ethan Caldwell, 27, for 4 years. We'd been living together for 2. When I came home that evening, I could barely contain my excitement. I remember laughing as I walked through the door. Ethan, you're not going to believe this. He was on the couch scrolling through his phone. I told him everything. The interview process, the offer, the salary, the future. I could finally see unfolding in front of me. He barely looked up. That's nice, Baba, he said casually. Then he asked, so when are you turning it down? I actually laughed, because I thought he was joking. What? When are you saying no? I stared at him. I haven't answered yet. I wanted us to talk first. He finally put his phone down. The expression on his face reminded me of someone correcting a child. Aurora, you're not seriously considering this. Why wouldn't I? It's just a job. Just a job. The opportunity I'd sacrifice sleep for. The career I'd been building since college. The reason I'd spent weekends coding side projects while other people were relaxing. It's almost triple what I'm making now, I said quietly. He shrugged. Money isn't everything. Coming from the man who insisted on expensive restaurants, designer brands, and replacing perfectly good furniture because it wasn't fashionable anymore. My whole life is here, he continued. My family is here. My friends are here. My gym. My routines. You can't expect me to leave everything behind for your career. I tried to compromise. We could visit often. It's only a couple hours by plane. You could even start your own business. You've always talked about doing something bigger. Suddenly, he claimed he loved his current work, which surprised me because I'd listened to him complain about it nearly every day. Then he brought up his mother. My mom needs me. His mother lived less than an hour away, and he visited her maybe once a month. But I listened, because that's what I'd always done. We argued for hours. I suggested moving later. He rejected it. I suggested trying California for a year. Rejected. Keeping our apartment as a backup? Rejected. Every solution I offered died before it even had a chance. Finally, he stood up. His voice became cold. You need to turn down that promotion. I blinked. I'm not moving to Silicon Valley for your career. Then came the sentence that changed everything. If you loved me, you wouldn't even consider it. Something inside me went quiet. Not angry. Not dramatic. Just quiet. Because suddenly, I could see our entire relationship. The apartment we'd chosen because he liked the neighborhood. The vacations near his family. The car I'd traded because my old one embarrassed him. The clothes he'd convinced me to stop wearing. For years, I'd called it compromise. Looking back, it wasn't compromise. It was surrender. Every single time, I looked at the man I'd once imagined marrying. Then I said softly, I'd never force you to move. His entire expression changed. He smiled. Actually smiled. Then he kissed my forehead. Good, he said. Email them tomorrow. I did. The next morning, I accepted the offer. I never told him. Maybe that makes me a coward. But I knew exactly what would happen if he found out. 3 weeks of guilt. 3 weeks of manipulation. 3 weeks of emotional warfare. And I couldn't do it anymore. So quietly, I prepared. I opened a new account, researched apartments, organized my belongings. The company arranged movers and temporary housing. Everything happened so quickly, it almost felt unreal. I scheduled the moving crew for Tuesday. Ethan always spent Tuesdays at the spa with his brother. Yesterday morning, I left for work like usual. Except I never went. I sat in a coffee shop with shaking hands and watched my phone. The movers texted me when they arrived. 3 hours later, everything I owned was packed. I left the shared furniture, the television, anything we'd bought together, even things I'd paid for. I didn't want a fight. I left a letter on the counter, alongside a check covering 2 months of rent. The lease was under his name anyway. At 2 in the afternoon, my phone exploded. Aurora, where are you? Why are movers here? Answer me. What are you doing? I ignored every call. Because we'd already had the conversation, he'd simply assumed he had won. Finally, I sent one message. I told you, I'd never force you to move. The apartment is paid through October. Good luck. Then I blocked his number. Tomorrow morning, I fly to California. And despite how terrified I am, for the first time in years, I feel free. I'm writing this from my temporary corporate housing in California. Outside my window, I can see mountains. Sometimes I still stop and stare, because none of this feels real yet. The job itself has been incredible. Better than I imagined. My team welcomed me immediately. My manager sat with me on the first day and explained the career path available to me. For the first time in years, I felt like people believed in my potential. But while my professional life was improving, the chaos back home was only beginning. Ethan found ways around the block, mostly through family and friends. The first call came from my mother, Aurora. Ethan is devastated, she said immediately. He says you abandoned him. I closed my eyes. Mom, we talked about the offer. He told me that. Then he demanded I reject it. But you just left. We spent hours discussing it. His position was simple. Either I gave up my career, or we were over. My mother sighed. He cried on my couch all afternoon. Of course he did. Apparently he forgot to mention the ultimatum, or the rent money, or the fact that I hadn't touched any of his belongings. Day 2 brought a call from my best friend. Hello, Aurora. I know this sounds ridiculous, but Ethan is telling people you emptied the apartment. What? He claims you took everything. Furniture, electronics, even family heirlooms. I nearly laughed. I have photos. I know nobody who actually knows you believes him, but he's posting everywhere. The campaign had officially started. Day 3 became even stranger. An unknown number appeared. It was Ethan's mother. Patricia, Aurora. What you've done is disgusting. I leaned back in my chair. Hello to you too. You destroyed my son. I accepted a job. You threw away 4 years for money. Something inside me finally snapped. No. I ended 4 years because your son believed he had the right to dictate my future. He told me about this so-called salary. She practically scoffed. Nobody pays $200,000. I actually laughed. I'm already here. Patricia, I'm already working. The job is real. She went silent for a moment. Then she said coldly, I hope it was worth it. And hung up. By day 4, Ethan had taken his performance online. One of my friends sent screenshots. His Instagram stories painted him as the abandoned victim. When you support someone through their difficult years, only to be discarded once they become successful? Remember, ladies and gentlemen, if someone leaves you for money, they never truly loved you. I stared at the screen in disbelief. Supported me. During our relationship, I paid most of the bills. I worked overtime. I funded vacations. I carried us financially. But somehow I had become the villain. The comments were vicious. People I'd never met called me selfish, a narcissist, heartless. Then came the story that made me laugh out loud. If anyone knows a good lawyer, message me. 4 years together should count for something legally. Apparently, Ethan was trying to discover whether boyfriends could receive breakup settlements I sent the screenshots to Chloe. Her reply came instantly. He's completely lost his mind. I checked the laws anyway. Nothing. No common law marriage. No legal claim. Nothing. Then came day 5. An email arrived. Not from Ethan. From his father. Richard. Subject line. Regarding your obligations. I opened it, expecting an apology. Instead, I found something unbelievable. Richard explained that Ethan had sacrificed opportunities for our relationship, that he had emotionally invested in my success, that my departure had caused financial hardship. Then he listed demands: 6 months of rent, $25,000 for emotional suffering, and a return trip, so we could have a proper separation discussion. I read the email twice. Then a third time. I genuinely wondered whether I was hallucinating. This was the same man I'd seen maybe 5 times in 4 years. The same father who missed Ethan's birthdays half the time. Yet suddenly he was acting like a divorce attorney. Thankfully, my company offered legal consultations. Silicon Valley benefits are truly absurd. The attorney read the email and actually chuckled. Aurora? This has no legal basis. But save everything. In case they escalate. I archived the email, but Ethan wasn't finished. He decided to involve someone from my past. My ex-boyfriend. Daniel. Daniel and I had ended things peacefully years before. We'd simply grown apart. Suddenly, I received a message from him. Aurora. I heard what happened. Honestly, I thought you'd changed. My stomach dropped, not because I loved Daniel. That chapter had closed long ago, but because it hurt seeing someone who once knew me believe such nonsense. Then I remembered something. Daniel followed me on LinkedIn. He had seen my announcement. He knew exactly what happened. So, why was he pretending otherwise? Curious. I checked Ethan's social media again through screenshots Chloe had saved. And there it was. A comment from Daniel beneath Ethan's victim post. So sorry you're dealing with this. You deserve better. At that moment, something became painfully clear. It wasn't just Ethan. It was an entire ecosystem of drama. People feeding each other's narratives. People who preferred victims over truth. People who thrived on chaos. I blocked Daniel. Blocked Richard. Stopped checking social media. And that weekend, I drove into the mountains. I stood overlooking a valley covered in fog. For the first time since leaving, I breathed deeply, because I finally understood something. I wasn't only escaping one controlling boyfriend. I was escaping an entire world that had taught me to make myself smaller. And I was never going back. After that weekend in the mountains, I made a decision. No more updates. No more social media. No more asking Chloe what Ethan was posting. No more allowing people from my old life to occupy space in my head. I wanted peace. And for a while, I actually got it. Work became my focus. The projects at the company were exciting. My manager trusted me. My teammates respected me. I found myself laughing again. Not the forced kind I'd been doing for years. Real laughter. The kind that catches you by surprise. One afternoon during lunch, one of my coworkers looked at me and said, "You seem happier every week." The comment caught me off guard, because I realized she was right. I was happier. Not because I suddenly had more money, not because California was magical, but because I no longer woke up wondering how to avoid disappointing someone. For years, I'd lived in anticipation of Ethan's reactions. Would he criticize my clothes? Would he complain about my schedule? Would he make me feel guilty for wanting something? I hadn't realized how exhausting it was until the pressure disappeared, but peace apparently offended Ethan. About a week later, Chloe called. "You told me not to send updates." She began carefully, but this one felt important. Isaiah. What happened now? Ethan contacted Daniel's wife. What? Apparently after Daniel stopped responding to him, Ethan decided to message Daniel's wife on Facebook. He claimed Daniel and I were secretly communicating. He tried convincing her that her husband was emotionally cheating. The whole thing exploded in his face. Daniel's wife confronted him publicly. Daniel blocked him. And, according to Chloe, Ethan somehow blamed me for all of it. I rubbed my forehead. How was that even my fault? Because reality has never stopped him before. We both laughed. Then she added something else. Oh. And his father sent another email. I groaned. What does Richard want now? He says your success belongs partly to Ethan because he emotionally supported you. I nearly dropped my phone. Emotionally supported me. Those were his exact words. The absurdity was becoming almost comedic, but underneath the humor, something darker lingered, because I began remembering things, small moments I'd dismissed. Ethan mocking my coding boot camp because it took away weekend time, complaining whenever I worked late, acting annoyed whenever I celebrated achievements, making jokes about women becoming too ambitious. At the time, I'd laughed with him. Now I understood. He hadn't wanted me to fail. He just wanted me to stay beneath him, because as long as I needed him, he remained in control. That realization hurt more than the breakup, because love shouldn't require shrinking. A few days later, my mother called again. This time her voice sounded different, quieter. Aurora, I owe you something. I frowned. What? I think I misjudged the situation. Apparently, Ethan had shown up at her house again. This time he wanted my address. When she refused, he became angry, very angry. According to my mother, he demanded she choose between supporting him or supporting me. The irony nearly made me laugh. He had issued another ultimatum. The exact thing that destroyed our relationship. I told him no. My mother admitted softly. And then he called me selfish. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Finally, she said, I'm beginning to understand what you lived with. Tears unexpectedly filled my eyes. Not because she apologized, but because someone finally saw it. Thank you. Mom? I'm sorry it took me so long. Better late than never. Then she added something that made me laugh. He also asked to borrow money. Of course he did. I gave him $20 for gas, and told him not to come back. I laughed so hard I nearly cried. That conversation healed something inside me. Meanwhile, my own life continued improving. My signing bonus arrived. I started apartment hunting. Eventually, I found a beautiful place overlooking the bay. The first evening, I stood on the balcony, coffee in hand, watching the sunset paint the water orange. And suddenly, I remembered something. 4 years earlier, Ethan had laughed when I told him I dreamed of living somewhere with a view. People like us don't live like that, he'd said. People like us. As if dreams came with social classes. As if happiness had limits, standing there above the bay. I realized how many ceilings I'd accepted, because someone else told me they existed. Around that time, I grew closer to one of my coworkers. Nathan Reed, 32. Software engineer. Quiet. Funny. Kint. Nothing romantic at first. Just friendship. But unlike Ethan, Nathan celebrated everyone's success. When I solved a difficult issue, he congratulated me. When I presented an idea, he listened. When I doubted myself, he encouraged me. One day during lunch, he asked, "Who convinced you that you have to apologize every time you're proud of yourself?" The question stunned me, because I hadn't even realized I did it. He smiled gently. You don't have to say sorry for succeeding. That sentence stayed with me for days. And I finally understood something. Healthy people don't compete with the people they love. They cheer for them. As my life slowly stabilized, Chloe called one final time. Aurora. I immediately recognized the tone. What happened? Ethan bought a plane ticket. My heart sank. To where? California. When Chloe told me Ethan had boarded a plane to California, I honestly thought she was joking. He actually came, I asked. He left this morning, she replied. Apparently he's going to fix everything. Fix everything. As though our relationship had been a flat tire. Instead of 4 years of accumulated control and resentment, I tried not to think about it. I went to work, attended meetings, reviewed code, pretended everything was normal. Around 7 that evening, I walked into the parking garage beneath the office and froze. Ethan was standing beside my car. For a second, I genuinely couldn't process what I was seeing. His hair was styled differently. He'd bought new clothes. He looked like someone trying very hard to appear successful. When he spotted me, relief flooded his face. There you are. My first thought wasn't romantic. It was fear. How had he found me? Then I remembered my LinkedIn post. I'd tagged the company. Of course he found me. We need to talk. He said, No. We don't. Please. Aurora. I flew all this way. The flight was your decision. People from the office were still leaving. And I didn't want a scene. Against my better judgment, I agreed to a coffee shop nearby. Public. Bright. Witnesses everywhere. The moment we sat down, Ethan smiled. I've been thinking. Something about the expression on his face made me uneasy. Maybe I overreacted. I stayed silent. California could actually be exciting. He stirred his coffee. I've done some research. There are amazing opportunities here. I could launch my fitness brand. Maybe become an influencer full-time. There are wealthy clients here. And there it was. Not love. Not regret. Math. He had calculated my new salary. He'd seen the apartment prices. He'd imagined the lifestyle. Ethan. I said calmly. We're not together anymore. His face changed instantly. Confusion. Shock. Then anger. You can't be serious. 4 years. Aurora. You don't throw away 4 years. I looked at him quietly. Exactly. Which is why I couldn't understand why you were willing to destroy everything over my promotion. His eyes widened. I wasn't destroying anything. You left. No. I corrected gently. You told me to choose. And I chose. He leaned forward. I was testing you. For a moment, I honestly thought I'd misheard. What? I needed to know whether you loved me enough. There it was. The truth. Not communication. Not compromise. A test. Another power play. Except this time, I hadn't surrendered. Ethan. I said softly. Healthy adults don't test each other. They talk. For the next 20 minutes, he cycled through every tactic I'd become familiar with over 4 years. Guilt. I supported you. Anger. You're selfish. Negotiation. We could try long distance. Victimhood. You ruined my life. Seduction. Remember how happy we used to be. Nothing worked. Because for the first time in our relationship, I wasn't afraid of disappointing him. Eventually his expression hardened. Fine. If you won't take me back, then you owe me. I almost laughed. I owe you what? Compensation. I blinked. Compensation. Do you know how humiliating this has been? Everyone knows you left me. My reputation is destroyed. The least you can do is help me rebuild. I stared at him. Then he said the number, $50,000. I actually burst out laughing. People around us turned to look. He wasn't joking. His face remained completely serious. For what I asked? Emotional damages. Lost opportunities. The life I was supposed to have. Ethan. I'm not giving you $50,000. Then I'll sue. For what? We had plans. We had a future. Maybe an implied agreement. I shook my head. Good luck. He stood so abruptly that his chair nearly fell. You'll regret this. When you're alone with your money and your fancy apartment, you'll realize what you lost. I smiled sadly. I already know what I lost. Control. Manipulation. Constant guilt. I'm okay with losing those things. He stared at me. Then he delivered one final blow. Daniel was right about you. I nearly laughed again. Daniel. The married man whose wife blocked you after you tried destroying their marriage. The color drained from his face. He hadn't expected me to know. Chloe truly was the best friend anyone could ask for. Without another word, he stormed out. That was the last time I ever saw him. Over the following weeks, the aftermath became almost absurd. His crowdfunding page titled, Starting Over After Financial Betrayal raised $40. Most of it came from his mother. It disappeared shortly afterward. He tagged my company in angry social media posts. Human Resources contacted me. After reviewing everything, They simply laughed and sent him a cease and desist letter. His fitness studio job let him go after repeated absences. Richard sent one final legal threat. My company's attorneys responded. Silence followed. Meanwhile, life moved on. I moved into my apartment overlooking the bay. I was invited to speak at a major technology conference. My stock options began vesting, and slowly, naturally, my friendship with Nathan became something more. Before anything happened, we disclosed everything to HR. Professional, simple, most importantly, healthy. One evening, while watching the sunset from my balcony, Nathan handed me a cup of coffee. Still thinking, he asked, sometimes, about him. I shook my head. No. About the woman I used to be. He smiled. I like the woman you are now. And for the first time in years, I believed someone who said something kind to me. A week later, my mother called. Aurora, I owe you another apology. Apparently, Ethan had appeared at her house again, demanding my address. When she refused, he admitted he just wanted to see whether I was really living the life he imagined. My mother laughed as she told me. Then he asked to borrow money. I burst out laughing. Please tell me you said no. I gave him $20 and told him to lose my number. I laughed until tears filled my eyes. Because somehow, despite everything, life had become lighter. Looking back now, I understand the lesson. The right partner would have celebrated with me. The right partner would have asked, how do we make this work? Instead, Ethan asked me to give up my future, and when I refused, he revealed who he really was. So I believed him, and I chose myself, and I've never been happier.